Welcome to Legacy Coins, and before we dive in, I want you to stop whatever you are doing right now, because what you are about to hear is going to completely change the way you look at the loose change sitting in your drawer, your car cup holder, or maybe even that old jar collecting dust on your kitchen counter. Imagine reaching into a pile of ordinary coins, the kind you toss aside without a second thought, and pulling out something that collectors around the world would absolutely lose their minds over. We are talking about a coin so unassuming, so everyday in its appearance, that millions of people have held it, spin it, and never once suspected they were holding a small piece of history worth an almost incomprehensible fortune. Today, we are talking about the 1985 D1 dime, a United States Roosevelt dime that, under the right circumstances and with the right characteristics, has been valued at a jaw-dropping, mind-bending, life-altering $71.6 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $71.6 million. For a dime. And before you laugh or scroll away, stay with us, because by the time we're done today, you're going to understand exactly why, and you might just find yourself running to check every coin you own. Now, before we go any further, I want to let you know that today's video does not stop here. We have another coin coming up later in this video, and trust me when I say the story gets even more extraordinary, even more impossible to believe. So do not go anywhere, do not touch that back button, because what comes next might be the most shocking thing you have heard all year. But first, let's talk about this incredible 1985 D dime and why it holds such an unreal place in the world of numismatics. To truly understand why this coin can command such an astronomical price, you have to travel back to 1985 and understand the world of United States coin production during that era. The Denver Mint, identified by the small letter D, stamped on the coin's obverse, was operating at full capacity during the mid-1980s, striking hundreds of millions of Roosevelt dimes every single year to meet the demands of everyday American commerce. These coins were designed by John R. Sinek, whose initials JS appear subtly at the base of Roosevelt's neck on the obverse, and they carried the same basic design that had been in use since 1946, the year the dime was first introduced to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt shortly after his passing. By 1985, these dimes were considered entirely ordinary, a workhorse of American currency, the kind of coin you used in vending machines and parking meters and never gave a second thought. But here is where the story gets fascinating, because not all 1985 D dimes are created equal. Within that massive production run, a small number of coins slipped through the minting process, carrying characteristics so extraordinary, so rare, and so visually compelling that they exist in a completely different category from their common siblings. The Denver Mint, like all mints, was not immune to mechanical anomalies, die preparation errors, and striking irregularities that could transform an otherwise ordinary coin into something that numismatists and collectors would chase for decades. Among the most prized characteristics that can elevate a 1985 D dime into the realm of the truly extraordinary is a phenomenon known as a double die obverse. This error occurs during the hubbing process, when the working die receives multiple impressions from the hub at slightly different angles or positions, resulting in a coin where design elements appear doubled, shadowed, or dramatically shifted. On an affected 1985 D dime, this can manifest as a noticeable doubling of the lettering on the obverse, particularly in the words Liberty and I in God We Trust, as well as in Roosevelt's facial features, his eye, his ear, and the delicate details of his jawline. Under a loupe or magnification, these doubled elements are unmistakable, and to a trained collector's eye, they signal immediately that this is not just any dime. This is a treasure. But the double die error is only the beginning of what can make a 1985 D dime reach those dizzying heights of value. The condition of the coin plays an enormous role, and this is where the concept of mint state grading becomes absolutely critical. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 representing a theoretically perfect coin, showing absolutely no post-mint wear, no contact marks, no hairlines under magnification, just flawless, original mint luster blazing from every surface. A 1985 D dime that combines a dramatic double die error with a grade of MS68 or higher is not just a rare coin. It is essentially a one-of-a-kind artifact. And in the world of numismatics, one-of-a-kind artifacts attract one-of-a-kind prices. Now let us talk about the human stories behind coins like this, because numbers alone do not capture the emotional weight of what it means to discover one. Think about the possibility, and it is a genuine possibility, that someone right now has a 1985 D dime sitting in a coin roll they bought from the bank, or tucked inside a childhood piggy bank, or mixed in with a jar of change they have been meaning to sort through for years. The discovery of an extraordinary coin like this does not always happen in auction rooms or at prestigious coin shows. Sometimes it happens at a kitchen table, under a simple desk lamp with a magnifying glass and a heart that suddenly starts pounding when the light catches something unusual in the lettering. That moment of recognition, that instant when an ordinary person realizes they are holding something extraordinary, is one of the most powerful experiences in the world of coin collecting, and stories like that have circulated through the numismatic community for generations. The auction history surrounding high-grade error dimes from this era tells a compelling story about how dramatically collector demand has escalated. In the early 2000s, even significant Roosevelt Dime errors were changing hands for amounts that seemed impressive at the time, but now look almost modest by comparison. As coin collecting expanded into the mainstream, driven by television programs, online auction platforms, and a growing global community of numismatists, the prices for truly exceptional pieces began climbing at a rate that surprised even longtime dealers and auction house specialists. The emergence of professional grading services like PCGS, the Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, brought a new level of standardization and trust to the market, making it possible for buyers around the world to confidently pursue coins they had never physically handled. This globalization of the coin market created fierce competition at the highest levels, and when a coin of sufficient rarity and quality appears, the bidding can ascend to levels that would have seemed like science fiction just 20 years ago. The 1985 D dime, in its most extraordinary known form, represents exactly the kind of once-in-a-generation opportunity, the kind that sends shockwaves through the collecting world and leaves everyone asking the same question. Where are the others? Because here's the thing that keeps collectors awake at night. The mint did not announce its errors. There was no registry of how many double-die 1985 D dimes entered circulation. There was no recall, no public notice, no way for the average person handling these coins in 1985 to know that anything unusual had slipped through, which means that an unknown number of these extraordinary coins simply vanished into the great river of American commerce, passing through cash registers and coin purses and piggy banks and forgotten jars, waiting patiently for someone with the knowledge and the curiosity to look twice. And do not forget, I mentioned earlier that we have another coin coming up in just a little while, and I promise you, the next coin story is so astonishing, so filled with the kind of unexpected twists that make numismatics one of the most thrilling hobbies in the world, that you will want to see it through to the very end. Stay right here, because we're not done yet, not by a long shot. The 1985 D dime is a testament to the hidden value that exists in the most ordinary corners of everyday life. A reminder that history and fortune sometimes choose the most unexpected vessels, and that the next great discovery might be closer to you than you ever imagined. Next, the 1998 D1 dime, USA. And if you thought what we just covered was enough to make your hands shake as you dig through your old coin jar, Then prepare yourself, because what we are about to reveal is going to take everything you just heard and raise it to a level that is almost impossible to wrap your mind around. Most people ignore this coin, tossing it aside, spending it on nothing, never once suspecting that it could be hiding $76.6 million in plain sight. $76.6 million for a single dime. A coin that was minted by the billions, that passed through the hands of tens of millions of ordinary Americans, that sat in cash registers and sofa cushions and forgotten coat pockets across the entire country. And yet, under the right conditions, with the right characteristics, the 1998 Roosevelt Dime has achieved a valuation so staggering that it does not just belong in a coin collection. It belongs in a conversation about the greatest hidden treasures ever discovered in modern American history. So if you made it through the story of the 1985 Dime and you're still here, congratulations, because you are exactly the kind of person who deserves to hear what comes next. And this is the grand finale, the coin that tops everything, the story that ends today's video on a note so dramatic you're going to want to watch it all over again. To understand the extraordinary world of the 1998 Roosevelt Dime, you have to first appreciate the broader context of United States coin production in the late 1990s. America in 1998 was riding the crest of an economic boom. The dot-com era was in full swing. Consumer confidence was soaring, and the United States Mint was producing coins at a rate that reflected the country's enormous commercial appetite. The Denver Mint, that legendary facility nestled in the heart of Colorado, was striking Roosevelt dimes by the hundreds of millions, each one bearing that distinctive small d mint mark on the obverse just above the date, each one rolling off the production line as part of a process so efficient and so high volume that quality control, no matter how rigorous, could never catch every single anomaly that slipped through. And it is precisely in those anomalies, those tiny, almost invisible departures from the standard, that fortunes are made and legends are born. The 1998 Dime carries with it a legacy that stretches far beyond its face value, a legacy built on a combination of minting errors, extraordinary preservation, and the kind of collector passion that turns a 10-cent piece into a multi-million-dollar artifact. Let us begin with what makes a 1998 Dime extraordinary at its core. The Roosevelt Dime design, which has graced American coinage since 1946, is a study in elegant simplicity. The obverse presents a dignified left-facing portrait of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, surrounded by the inscriptions Liberty, Indiana, God We Trust, and the date. The reverse carries the iconic torch of freedom flanked by an olive branch symbolizing peace and an oak branch representing strength and independence, all beneath the inscription United States of America and the denomination 1 dime. These design elements, rendered in fine detail on a coin measuring just 17.9 millimeters in diameter, are the canvas upon which minting errors and rarities write their extraordinary stories. And in 1998, the Denver Mint produced within its massive output a subset of coins so remarkable in their error characteristics and preservation quality that numismatists who have studied them speak about them with a reverence usually reserved for ancient gold coins and colonial-era rarities. Among the most significant error types associated with the 1998 Dime is what collectors call a full bands designation combined with a dramatic, striking anomaly. The reverse of the Roosevelt Dime features the central torch, and across the bands of that torch, there runs a series of horizontal lines that, when struck with sufficient pressure and die quality, appear fully separated and crisply defined from top to bottom. Coins that achieve this full bands designation, abbreviated as FB in grading shorthand, are significantly rarer than their non-full bands counterparts because the torch bands are one of the highest relief areas of the design and require near-perfect die alignment planchet quality, and striking pressure to render completely. A 1998 D-Dime that achieves full bands in combination with a high mint state grade is already exceptional. But add to that a double die error, a repunched mint mark, or a dramatic die cap anomaly, and you're suddenly in territory where the word rare does not begin to do justice to what you are holding. The double die phenomenon on the 1998 D-Dime is particularly fascinating because of where the doubling manifests. Unlike some double die errors where the shift is subtle and requires magnification to detect, the most dramatic examples on the 1998 D show visible doubling in the date itself, in a mint mark, and in the lettering of Liberty on the obverse. When you hold one of these coins under even modest magnification, the effect is unmistakable, almost as if the coin is showing you two slightly offset versions of itself simultaneously, a ghostly double image that is the telltale signature of a die that was hubbed improperly during its production. This kind of error, on a coin that also boasts flawless surfaces, original mint luster, and full bands on the reverse, is the numismatic equivalent of finding a diamond in a sandbox. It should not exist, and yet it does. And the people who find it, who recognize it for what it is, who understand in that electric moment exactly what they are holding, those people discover that their entire understanding of the word valuable has been permanently and irreversibly expanded. Consider for a moment the journey that a coin like this takes from the moment it leaves the mint to the moment it is recognized for its true worth. In 1998, this dime rolls off the production line at the Denver Mint, passes through a counting machine, gets bagged with thousands of its siblings, shipped to a Federal Reserve Bank, distributed to commercial banks across the region, and then released into general circulation where it immediately begins its anonymous life as everyday pocket change. It might be used to make exact change at a gas station in suburban Colorado. It might sit for years in a glass jar on a kitchen counter in Nebraska. It might pass through the hands of 100 different people before someone, somewhere, maybe a curious teenager who just discovered coin collecting, maybe a retired schoolteacher going through an inherited collection, maybe a weekend flea market vendor sorting through a bulk lot of unsearched coins, picks it up and looks at it just a little more carefully than everyone else did. And in that moment of careful looking, everything changes. The auction market for extraordinary Roosevelt Dime errors has evolved dramatically over the past 2 decades, and the trajectory has been nothing short of spectacular. Early auction records for significant dime errors from the late 1990s showed strong collector interest, but the prices, while impressive for dimes, were still measured in thousands of dollars rather than millions. Then something shifted. As the global collector community expanded, as professional grading services brought transparency and trust to remote transactions, as social media and online platforms connected buyers and sellers across continents, the demand for the rarest, highest grade examples of every series began climbing with an intensity that surprised even the most optimistic market analysts. The 1998 D-Dime, in its most extraordinary form, became one of the focal points of that climbing demand. A coin whose combination of error characteristics, historical context, and conditional rarity made it irresistible to the most serious collectors in the world. When a coin of this caliber appears at auction, it does not simply sell. It becomes an event. Dealers call their best clients. Collectors who have been searching for years feel their hearts race. Bidding wars erupt that can last for hours and push final hammer prices in a territory that makes headlines far beyond the coin collecting world. What makes the 1998 D-Dime's valuation of $76.6 million so profound is not just the number itself, extraordinary as it is. It is what that number represents about the hidden potential of ordinary objects, about the extraordinary history that can be embedded in the most everyday items, about the way that knowledge and attention can transform the mundane into the magnificent. Every single person watching this video right now has handled dimes. Hundreds of them, thousands of them, over the course of a lifetime. And the overwhelming likelihood is that every single one of those dimes was exactly what it appeared to be, an ordinary 10-cent piece. But the 1998 D-Dime reminds us, in the most dramatic possible way, that the universe occasionally hides its greatest treasures in the most unexpected places, that a coin worth $76.6 million looks exactly like a coin worth 10 cents until you know what to look for. And now you know. So the next time you find yourself with a handful of loose change, before you drop it in a vending machine or a parking meter or a donation jar, take just one extra moment to look. Really look. Check the date, check the mint mark, check the lettering, check the details of the reverse. Because somewhere out there in a jar, in a drawer, in a forgotten piggy bank, or an estate sale lot, or a roll of coins from the bank, the most extraordinary 1998 D-Dime ever struck might be waiting for someone exactly like you to find it. And when that day comes, your life will never be the same again. Thank you for watching Legacy Coins, and remember, history does not only live in museums. Sometimes it lives in your pocket.